through the process and closing on a deal. That's a huge step. We're very excited for you. And that's number 2 now, Javinka. So a big shout out. It's nice to see, right? And I know both Tyler and Simos can attest to this. When you sit down with someone, this was going back to about, I'm going to say 4, 5, 6 months. It was probably closer to 6 months. Javinka, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if I'm wrong on that. But we sat down, had a coffee here at the office. The good old days when you could do the coffees in live format. And we sat down, got an idea of what you're looking into accomplishing, going through the numbers, doing that portfolio assessment, making sure that you're ready to kind of go, putting all the team together, introduction to the mortgage advisor, making sure that we had a team in place, the real estate lawyer, home inspector, if we were going to go resale. And then from an hour and a half conversation that led to the first income property that you went ahead with us, and then of recent you just did a pre-construction condo with Notting Hill. And so just big moves. Oh, sorry, I think you went from Notting Hill and then you went to Broadway, so you made a shift at that time, and just a big congratulations to you. And we are so grateful, and I speak for the whole squad and the whole team here at REC Canada when I say we're so grateful for your support and letting us being part of it. Like, how nice is that, eh, boys?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, man. To be part of people's journey, every day, is by far the biggest, most fulfilling part of our jobs. Because to sell real estate is one thing, to grow with people is a whole different other. And when you get into the second, the third, the fifth, the 8th, the 10th, it really becomes something that it's like a child. You're watching something bloom and grow, and both people, both the investor and us, the team, feel that connection to it. It's unbelievable.
Wanted to make sure everybody who's coming on right now, I know you're coming on a little bit late, but welcome to everyone who's live here with us on the Brunch with REC webinar, live with us on YouTube. Simos just let me know because we don't have Bobby Pume today, we can't go live on Facebook. So to our Facebook friends that are watching this recording, as I know a lot of you do, we apologize, but now you gotta get to that link that gets sent out every single week, usually around Wednesday or Thursday, to sign in and RSVP. Just register. And guys, there has been so many people who have been sharing these links with their friends and family. And again, that just means so much to us, because our REC insiders, our REC nation is growing so rapidly because of you. I know we do a lot of content and that brings a lot of new people to our world, but the fact that you're sharing it is just that much better, because your friends and family, they trust you already. And for you to transfer that triangle of trust, again, just means so much to us. Welcome to everybody that's on right now. You are seeing another face with us. He would probably say the best looking face on this web.
No, first is Simos, then me.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go down this path again. The last poll settled it once and for all.
It did. I wasn't part of that, though. I wasn't.
We can run this poll again if you want to, but just know what's going to happen.
So I don't want to hurt my self-esteem, so no, it's okay.
So to anybody who's new to our family, or people that have been part of the REC Nation for a long time, and you've not met the good-looking man at the bottom of my screen, anyways, I do this on a phone. That's Tyler Walbourne. He's our Director of Real Estate Concierge Services. What does that mean? Well, if you're in Timbuktu, Saskatchewan, and I think there really is a Timbuktu, and then we're going to Google that just to double check, but if you're in Saskatchewan, and if you're in Saskatchewan or Vancouver or in the GTA, it does not matter, anywhere in the country, and if you're watching or listening right now and you need another set of eyes on a lease agreement, you need a plumber for your property at your principal residence, you need an electrician for your property, your income property, again, right across the country, we have a service here that's absolutely free. It's just an added value service at REC Canada. We've had it for more than 2.5-3 years now. Tyler runs that department. He will get you in touch with pre-vetted service providers, okay? And that can also mean a realtor. Our 33 realtors and 10 support staff, we cover the greater Toronto area, but because the company name is REC Canada, we're very national. And so I want to make sure that you understand you can at any time send an email to info@REC Canada and let Tyler know that you need a plumber or electrician. He also doubles down. He doubles down as our air traffic controller. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, if you're looking into getting or having a virtual coffee with myself or Simos, Tyler is the guy that makes sure that gets set up. Tyler essentially is our boss. He lets us know who we're talking to, when we're talking to them, and what we're talking to people about. So make sure you reach out. Feel free, guys. None of these services, there's no cost to them, okay? But thousands upon thousands of people, and I'm not telling you to impress you. It's more the fact of how much data we have now, but thousands of people have taken advantage of this in terms of having a coffee with us. So we would love for you to do that. Today, though, we are very excited. As you can tell, we do like the sound of our own voices. So the past 10, 11 Brunch with RECs that we've done, we've never really got to an opportunity to answer everyone's questions in the Q&A section. So please, already, if you have a burning hot question, get into the Q&A section. Make sure that you get your question in there, and Tyler, being the air traffic controller of our company, but he's also going to be playing air traffic controller of the Q&A section today, will make sure he gets the questions at you. And if it's something that's very personal, again, just send a direct email to info@reccanada.com, and we will pick up the phone and give you a call during the week. But there's been so many questions that we haven't got to that we thought we would start with some of the questions that we've been getting through our brunches, getting through the nightcaps that I do live on Instagram, the emails, our DMs, our Facebooks, all the questions that we get. Tyler's compiled a list, so we'll get started there, and then we're going to jump right into the Q&A section, guys. So
there's a few anecdotes from the field that I want to definitely cover today. Again, it was a very busy week. And a lot of deals were happening. So I want to talk to our insiders throughout the nation as what I'm seeing right now with 30 plus brokers on the ground. We're seeing a massive uptick in activity, meaning as the world is reopening, the majority of the countries in stage 2, some of the country is actually moving into stage 3 of the COVID reopening. So as this pandemic is winding down, from what it seems, people regardless are getting their business on and their business plans moving. So we're seeing a massive uptick in commercial activity. We're seeing a massive uptick in residential activity. Tenants are starting to feel comfortable enough to move again. Investors are doing deals. Now there's a few things that we saw happen last week. And one of them is very important. What we saw smack dab in one of the hottest markets in Toronto, and I was personally involved in navigating one of my brokers through the deal. It's a listing in Willowdale, kind of that Bayview Village, just north of Bayview Village, that Empress and Willowdale area. It's a very, very sought after neighborhood, not a lot of listings. And there was about 4 homes listed in that 3.5 to 4.5 million range. Okay, so for any of those people not from Toronto, that price range, it's not like every house in Toronto is $4.5 million bucks. Just so everybody knows, that's still a very pricey and luxurious market here. So it's not like common ground to do $4 million deals. There's the pockets. So what we saw there was the home had been listed before COVID at 4.5 million. It was listed so we're talking late winter 2019, so like December area. Didn't go for 4.5 million bucks. Listing expired. Obviously, the market spoke. It was overpriced. And they go into beginning of March, before COVID actually wreaked havoc on all citizens of the country, and they listed at 4.2 million. 4.2 million. So a price drop of 300K. Now they have action, but now COVID hits. It goes from having action to dead. Okay, so this is the story of a listing. This is the story of a listing. This is the story of somebody who bought a home, a 1960s home, demolished it, and built a brand new little palace in Willowdale. So this investor is now trying to divest and exit his investment and is selling this brand new home. We have a buyer. So we go in mid-May. So we're well into the pandemic, still tons of uncertainty. If anybody rewinds back a month, we're not where we are today with the confidence that we are today. We were still right in the thick of it.
That wasn't even a month ago. That was closer to probably 2 months ago, where there was a lot more uncertainty, right? If you look at the month of May, definitely in the second part of kind of April, you started to see that uptick happen, right?
No, but I'm saying, like, in the middle of May when we went to this showing, like, we were going with full-blown, like, I'm talking full-blown COVID protocols. Nobody knew if, like, the offices hadn't reopened yet. It was still right before that change. So we go in, the client comes in from, they're from out of the city. The client comes in, we take a look at the home in person, social distancing. We put an offer together. We put the offer together at 3.6 million. 3.6. So we're talking now another $600,000 delta. Negotiate back and forth. We're at a deal today at 3.7. Moral of the story that I'm going to go for now is twofold. The markets that get hit the hardest, because 3.7 million is a steal for this home. I think the cost for this home, like to buy the land and build this home, you're probably looking at around $4 million, 3.6 to $4 million. Did this investor make money? I'm not too sure. But I know my client got a steal because we're on the buyer side. Where I'm going with this is, during a time of uncertainty, in the residential market, there are ways to invest in strategies to go after that are not going to be leaving you exposed in specific cases. When me and Jas harp on every day the buy and hold strategy, when we say flipping and renovating is not real estate investing, but rather a business. It is, of course, it's real estate investing in real estate, but you're trying to time the market. You're trying to do things within a very specific time period. And if that doesn't go your way, you're going to be looking at potentially huge carrying costs, interest costs that are going to change your pro forma in what you were planning for. In this case, A, our buyer got a great deal, and that was an end user. B, during any type of global event, during any type of national crisis, the markets that will get hit first are not the multifamily apartment buildings, where the 95% of the people live. Middle class Canada. Canada is a middle class country. So we're talking about everybody needs housing. Everybody needs to be in such and to live a specific lifestyle. But the luxury markets, the recreational markets, anything gonna put the bank
You're a little choppy right now, but I'll kind of take on the conversation. Tyler, do you hear Simos choppy as well? Just to make sure.
Yeah, he's a little choppy right now.
What we've always seen in the past, and again, this is years upon years of data, is that when there is an economic downturn, you always see the luxury markets, those markets above that $2 million mark, especially in the Greater Toronto area, along with recreational properties, take the biggest hits first. Why? Because as from a consumer's perspective, they're not going to let go their principal residence, especially in the Greater Toronto area. We know there's ebbs and flows with the market. Real estate goes up and down, upwards. It's always happened. It will continue to happen because the need for housing. But when you have a second property like a cottage, for example, those are the ones, because they're outside of the Greater Toronto market, those are the ones that get hit first, and we see it every single time. Right now, if you look at properties that are listed above the 2 million mark, they're staying on the market for a little bit longer. The days on market, just actual facts and stats, the days on market are slightly higher than about 2 months. Where if you look at properties under the 1 million mark, we're seeing multiple offers, and multiple offers for end users who are not even actually seeing the home. they're just virtually taking a look at the home, right? And so that's always very, very telling, because it's the need of housing. So you have a lot of consumers right now in the Greater Toronto market that are saying, okay, look, honey, we know that the kids are going to start to go back to school, and I don't want to be in this school district, so let's make a move. Or the home is too small for us right now. We need to upsize. Or we hear a lot of this now coming because of the baby boomers, that the home's too big. They're empty nesters. Let's downsize. The cost of having certain bigger homes, it just doesn't make sense for a lot of people, so they're downsizing. And so what Simos was saying, and Simos, I just kind of took over the conversation as you were freezing, that anytime we've seen a little dip in the marketplace, the first two property classes that get affected are those values, the homes listed above $2 million, as well as recreational properties.
For sure.
Nice to have you back.
Awesome, man. And just in closing, where I was going with it is, it's just like the market speaks. You know what I mean? So if you're not in tune with your market as an investor, there's nothing more important for you to be in tune with what's happening on the ground. So coming to these sessions, joining other sessions, and really monitoring what's happening in the markets that you're interested in, there is nothing more important than knowing what's happening. Like I now know that in that market, I just negotiated a $3.7 million, $4 million home. I saved my client $300K. I know it. I know that in 6 months that house is going to sell no problem over $4 million. Period. I know it, because I know there's being built.
As you froze, I was saying, look, we know that the values are going to go up and down upwards, right? And we know that area, definitely that location of Willowdale, I mean, it's prime for a $4 million home. That's just what the values are.
Jazzy, I wanted to, so that was it for that. I just wanted to bring kind of some action from the street into the,
I love it.
Into that today.
Real stories are the best, my man. Real stories are the best.
There was one more big one, and it's something that you harp on all the time. A client came in from one of our team members. They walked into a sales center that they had registered for. This is townhomes in Markham, Woodbine and 16th. Two clients, they bought 2 units each, one for each of their families and one investment each. We were not representing them on the purchase. They bought them and they just wanted to bring them in for a deal review, which is fine. And also compare them to a project that we're working in Richmond Hill. They're bringing their agreements of purchase and sale. They hadn't spoken to a lawyer day 4 of their due diligence. They hadn't spoken to a lawyer yet. I'm like, okay, well, let me take a look at the deal. They open the deal. I'm talking a quick skim through. I said, do you guys know what development charges are? They're like, they're like, yeah, that's the one that we have 50% off on. I said, what? I said, do you know what development charges are? They said, no. Development charges are not, they have nothing to do with a builder. Development charges are imposed onto a builder from the city. No matter what city in Canada you live in, they have development charges. That's how a city makes money or recovers their money from putting in sewers and water mains and sidewalks and asphalt and garbage and the rest of it. I said, that's development charges. There's parkland levies. There's a million different other little things. But development charges in this case, I said, you're buying in Markham and you have been imposed, you have been given where you thought you had a great deal, a cap of 50% of what's a bare minimum of $84,000 in development charges. I'm looking at this and I'm like, are you guys sure that this is correct? And they're like, yes, they're giving us a 50% cap. I said, this is what you're going to do. Because I'm a realtor. I've seen thousands of these. I know what I'm looking at here, but I'm not going to be the guy to tell you what to do. What I am going to do is I'm going to introduce you to 3 great lawyers that we work with. If you have your own, use your own. You're going to take this agreement of purchase and sale. They're going to analyze it. And in very short order, they're going to bring you back a summary and a response of what you're in for. Give this one to Mark Weisletter. Mark, if you're listening, I know he's always been
and out of our brunches. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you always having our back. So Mark comes back with a summary like this. And what Mark did is when you're buying pre-construction, guys, you have to look at that APS. I know it's a dreaded 50 to 70 pages, but it's the only thing you have that you're paying for. You're not buying bricks and mortar, you're buying an agreement of purchase and sale that we call an APS. You're buying an APS, take your business seriously. Take this contract and dissect it word for word.
Well, and just to add to that, I mean, in terms of trying to dissect it word for word, be careful, I think, if you're listening right now, because you trying to dissect it yourself, you won't know what you're reading and what you're looking at most of the time. But you can go through the contract as you wish.
But that's what I was getting at, and thank you for making that crystal clear.
Yeah.
If I, who have seen thousands upon thousands of deals, will not give official advice to a client on a contract, it's because I'm not a lawyer.
Exactly. Yeah. Very important.
And a lawyer that's different is a 5-year university degree and literally thousands of contract analysis. It's not the same. Not the same. That's what a lawyer is for. So take it to your lawyer. Make sure that they're a lawyer that is fluid in pre-construction investing, not the guy who does divorces. Make sure you go to a real estate lawyer, somebody who knows what they're doing and they've done it before, and get your proper advice. In this case, Mark came back and negotiated a $10,000 cap on development charges. So a $200 half-hour session with the lawyer review saved this person $35,000. The difference between half of 84K and $2,000. So when we say the difference is massive, that's money that would have came out of the client's pocket, net cash, on closing due to the city. So those are kind of the two things that I really wanted to talk about today.
That was real life this week. Both things were real life this week. I think those, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening right now to live or on the recording would attest to the fact that that's where the most value comes from, right? And so as we had our 22 people into contract this week as well, and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, that's exactly what happened. And congratulations to every single one of you for moving forward as we've seen new price lists come in, and we're no longer really working on that project anymore because each of our original purchasers made a little over $20,000 this past week. And I don't tell you that again to boast, but that just gives us goosebumps that our clients were able to make that kind of money in such a short period of time.
It's incredible.
In a very, very passive investment. And so, but it was only done after the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. As Simos mentioned, I mean, 15 years of doing this, 1,000 contracts is really lowballing it. I think it's a little over a couple of thousand right now that we've seen when it comes to that specific type of investment and purchase. But yet we still say, hang on, we're going to make the introduction. I need you to go and read over a summary that's been sent to you by the lawyer, because I'm not a real estate lawyer. I don't even play one on webinars. You know what I mean? And so we need to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So great value add, Simos, with the two stories from a real life perspective. Ty, I actually see some Q&A questions now. I don't know how you're going to control the air traffic that's happening right now with the questions in the live Q&A and the questions.
Guys, on my screen, I also see a hand up by Linda. Do you want to bring in a live question, guys?
Let's do it.
Is that what that is? Is that what that is?
I'm not too sure.
I always see that as a hi, or I don't know if that's a raise your hand. I never really.
We're completely useless without our executive producers in the back, so we apologize.
Ty's done this a few times with us live as well, so Ty will figure that part out. Ty, why don't you just figure out if you want to go into the Q&A and just throw the questions at us? You got Simos and I. We know it's, you know, in the city of Toronto right now, it's over 30 degrees. We promise not to hold everyone. We know how much you love and support us, and you want to stay right till the end. And so we're going to do our best to kind of have a hard stop, because we know how many of you want to get out and enjoy this beautiful
100%.
Especially in the city of Toronto. Tyler,
all right, let's do some rapid fire here.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first question, looking to buy, and these are questions, everyone, from the previous webinar, so there's a few different topics. So looking to buy our first commercial multifamily opportunity, what is the first step assessing the property's ROI, especially if it's out of province?
So whether it's in the province or out of the province, commercial investing has zero bearing on anything. When we're talking about multiflex and commercial investing, we are talking 100% about the numbers. The list of things, I'll give you guys the top 5, okay? The top 5 things that you need to request right off the bat. A copy of the rent roll. A copy of the leases so you can see if they're legacy leases or if they're turned over leases. You need to understand the market value of the leases, meaning is it $2,000 for a 1-bedroom, or is it $3,000 for 1-bedroom, or is it $150 for a 1-bedroom? You won't be able to analyze your rent roll in what you're paying for unless you know what market rents are. So start from the top. Give me a copy of the rent roll. Give me a copy of the leases. Understand the market that I'm investing in. Understand the building. So visit the building or get exactly what you need. When was it built? When was the last time we changed asphalt in the parking lot? Shingles, boilers. What kind of capital expenditures are we in for? So once you understand the rent roll, the income, you're going to understand what you're in for from a capital expenditure perspective. So I'm going to need to put $250,000 into this 30 blocks. I'm going to need to put in $10,000 for the roof, or it's in perfect condition, whatever the case may be. Lastly, you're going to have to figure out financing options. Commercial is a different game. This isn't a semi that you're going to go get your 2.29 financing for. This is commercial financing. It starts anywhere between 3.5% and 5%. It's regular range. If you're a follower of a club, or if you're a follower of mine, you understand really and truly what CMHC can do for you, which is the government's housing authority. They guarantee mortgages in the commercial and multifamily sector. You can get financing at under 2% right now. Those are called CMHC super closed mortgages. They have a very big process to them. They're very stringent in the process. Again, you guys want to bring up commercial and multifamily all the time now. We're seeing a massive trend in real estate investors really going after that 4 property, that 4-door plus investment. I ask every single one of you, info@reccanada.com. Myself, Jas, our VP, Jacob, who's running the commercial side now, under my guidance. There's a lot of opportunity out there, but there's a stringent process. We have an outline that we send to any seller, meaning like, what do we need to sell your property? You want to sell it? We'll share that with you, because if you're out there doing off-market deals, you need to know what to ask for, where to start. We will get you that template should you require it. All you have to do is ask. Send us an email at info@reccanada, and we'll give you a list of things you need to get started on your due diligence.
Perfect. Okay, so next question. What are some primary factors you look into when analyzing a specific real estate market?
I mean, it all starts, the halo for us is location. We want to look at where is this investment, like what's the location, and because that for us determines so many other factors. Right? That determines what the population growth is going to be in that area. That determines the job growth, what type of jobs. That also determines transit. Is it close by? Is it on a transit line? And then once we know those factors, we can now determine the supply and demand. Everything really comes down to supply and demand. If there's a lot more people looking for something, then if it exists, we know that values are going to continue to rise upward. And so for us, we always start off with the location, because that determines everything else, really right down to the micro of who our customers are going to be. Customers meaning our tenants. And so again, we always start with location.
Jas, let me ask you a question, because I think this is going to be very complimentary. What kind of metrics should people be looking for? So inside that exact idea that you have, So they're doing their due diligence. Let's say they're looking for transit access, employment access, etc. From when they have to go on the street and pay, should they be looking at months of inventory? Should they be looking, which metric should they be
Yeah,
using?
so the market, yeah, so in terms of supply and demand, Simos, I mean, and that is very complimentary. To me, the first thing I am looking at is months of inventory, because then that's going to determine what type of market am I in. I always laugh with our team. I'm like, just drop me anywhere in the world, give me a couple of stats and I'm good to go. I'll be able to tell you what's going to start to happen, because months of inventory will determine what type of market we're in. So if there's 3 months and less of inventory, we're in a seller's market. So I know that there is more buyers than there is actual listings, supply and demand. 3.5 months up to about 6 months, it's considered a balanced market. The amount of buyers and the amount of listings are kind of, they're very neutral. 6 months and above, we're in a buyer's market. That means that there's a lot of listings on the market. And now me as a buyer, purchaser / investor, I have a little bit more time to choose.
Yeah.
I don't have to jump at the first property I look at, because if this property at 123 Main Street sells, the chances are there's another one coming right around the corner in a couple of weeks. On the flip side, in a seller's market, if I see an opportunity, or if I see that same property at 123 Main Street, I might consider paying slightly more than everyone else. And always, every situation is very, very specific. It's hard to answer these questions with a blanket statement. But when you see that the months of, that property at 123 Main Street comes up, I might be willing to pay a little bit more. Why? Because another one like that might not come up for another 3, 6, 7 months. And so me paying an extra $10,000, $15,000 amortized over 25, 30 years, I'll get that back quite quickly. If we look at the Greater Toronto area, on an average home of $850,000 appreciating at 5%, just very conservatively at 5%, I know within a year that's going to appreciate by $42,000. If I pay an extra $10,000, I'm still in the net positive by $35,000.
Yeah, and you're really kind of giving people an idea of not to look at every little detail as a detriment, and keep the high and big picture in mind. The only thing I wanted to add what you were saying on the months of inventory. So for clarity, everyone, if listings stop coming on the market tomorrow, no more listings come up, the months of inventory is how long would it take for the market to absorb what's out there for sale. So to reiterate what Jas was saying, if it's 3 months or less, it's a seller's market. 3 to 6 months is a balanced market. 5 months plus is pretty much a buyer's market. So there's a glut of inventory. In the rental market, we typically refer to vacancy rate. So a vacancy rate of 0 to 4% is a landlord's market. 4 to 6% is a balanced market. 6% vacancy plus, you're getting into tenant market territory, where you have to market your apartment for, sign a 1-year lease and get a free 28-inch TV. So all those things that you see in different markets, it's not a coincidence. So when you go into sometimes depressed markets, you're going to see all those incentives. When you come into markets like Toronto or like Mississauga or whatever the case, Vancouver, where there is literally nothing for rent, you start seeing the opposite, where the prices are just jumping and moving quick. So that's kind of the jargon and the things that you should be looking for.
Overall, right now in the GTA, really quickly, we're at 2 months of inventory, just in case anybody was wondering. And that's the latest stats that we have right now.
Awesome. Okay, so next question here. In a time like this, how would you approach financing a purchase if you feel that the big 5 banks may not approve you?
Well, I mean, I'll take this one at the start here, Simos. Look, there's probably 6 major banks now anyways in our country. But here's the good news. If they say no to you, that's just a no. But there's over 477 institutions, including the 6 major banks, credit unions, trust companies and so on and so forth. In my opinion, I always like to say that work with an independent mortgage broker, because he or she, it doesn't cost you anything. They're able to put you in touch with all these other lenders. Simos and I, REC Canada, like in the real estate business, we're not in the mortgage business, but we obviously have a lot of data and experience with this, but we don't even know all these 477 lenders. I have mortgages on my property. I don't even know the name of the lender, to be honest with you. And the truth is because I don't want to know, because if they're actually getting in touch with me, chances are there's something wrong. And so there's so many lenders that most people, 99% of people, don't know, except for these mortgage brokers, these independent mortgage brokers. That's their job. That's what they do. And again, if one of the major banks, sometimes their requirements are a little bit more stringent than everyone else's. And so I want to make sure that we get you in touch. Shoot us an email at info@reccanada.com. We'll give you the name and number of a few mortgage brokers. You decide who you kind of jive with. And then on top of that, there's private money that a lot of investors in our wheelhouse, REC insiders, would love to lend you money, and it depends on what you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I have nothing to add further on this. I'll take the opportunity to give a shout out to our tremendously talented and hardworking brokers, our strategic partners on that side, Chris DeSouza, Stephanie, Callum, Sharmila, all these. Sorry?
We're pro funds. I mean, we have
massive. They literally do dozens upon dozens of deals for us. Carmen and her entire outfit are tremendous. But I just mean, like, we have so many talented people that we work with.
Yeah.
Guys, to go back to the original question, you should not be going to your bank on a single application. It is a massive error in real estate investing. Get in touch with your mortgage professional. Reach out to us anytime for a referral. We work with the most talented and amazing people.
And really, just to go back to that in terms of the bank, like, unless you have like a super amazing relationship with somebody at the bank, like, back in the days, right? Like the 80s and the 90s, you had this relationship with somebody at the bank, right? And because of their business model, and again, like, I mean, I'm not here to knock anyone's business model, especially the banks who are in the billions of profits. They're obviously doing something right for their statements. But unless you have a relationship with somebody at the bank, then it's probably not beneficial, to Simos's point, to go to the bank, right? Because the blue bank is not going to tell you about the red bank, and the red bank's not going to tell you about the best rate and terms at the green bank.
And they change programs all the time.
Yeah.
Just like any other business, they have promotions. Yeah. This month, Scotiabank's going after first-time home buyers. Next month, BMO's going after multifamily investors. Yeah. Like, you got to be in. Nobody's going to be more in sync. Like, you can't ask a surgeon for advice in a micro market for real estate, just like you can't ask me, should I operate using this process or the other. A mortgage broker is going to know what's happening out there. They're going to say, I'll take it to this bank because that's what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you have all-stars on your team. Lesson, all-star team, number one.
Awesome. I'm going to ask one more question from the previous webinar, and then we have a few Q&A ones. Okay, so please comment on investing as an individual versus investing as a legal company or corporation. What do you recommend, and at what point do you make the switch?
I'm happy to
the point earlier. I mean, to the point earlier, making sure that you have a real estate all-star team. The one provider that sometimes gets forgotten is an accountant. Definitely with the rules changing, Simos mentioned it, and we talked about it, about banks changing rules. I think the rules that get changed the most are from the CRA, and so that is something that definitely you should be speaking with an accountant about. It's not a cop-out. It's because your situation, it all depends on your situation. I would say it's safe to say out of the 700 transactions that we do, 250 to 300, call it 300 are real estate investments. It's right down the middle, guys? Like, it's probably 50-50. People go personal, 50% people go personal, and then 50% go on corporations. And so it obviously comes comes down to everyone's specific situation. There is obviously tax advantages to go with the corporation, but then the financing changes. Your ability for financing changes in terms of you'll have to actually put more down most of the time, and you need to weigh those options. So you must add to that if you'd like.
Very, very little. You hit the nail on the head. So the only advice out of this is going back to Power Team and get yourself a proper accountant. But just to add a little bit to it, if you're closing on properties personally or in a corp, it's not an investment style or one is better than the other. We're talking about tax and liability.
Yeah.
Tax and liability. So it's how you're structured for taxation and it's how you're structured for liability. So if you have one or two properties, you're going to be personally liable anyways because of the mortgage financing. The minute you get into portfolio financing, you're going to need different insurance. Again, it's now you're going down the commercial path. So if you have a corporation or bare trustee that owns the property, it's a tax play and a liability play, which means you have commercial insurance protecting for slip and falls, for fires, for whatever the case may be. It's a different insurance policy and a different structure. So there is no such thing as better and when do I change? It's going to be more of what's your personal financial situation, and your accountant will tell you what to do, not us.
All right. So I'm going to go into the Q&A a little bit. The first question we had from Anonymous, the Anonymous keeps coming back. It does touch base a little bit on vendor take back. So first, before I ask the question, let's explain what a vendor take back is.
Go.
Vendor take back, VTB is kind of the term that you hear on the streets right now. You hear STB, seller take back mortgage. Let's use the example of a $500,000 purchase price, and if the bank is only if the bank says to you, well, we're only going to give you financing based on 80-20 loan to value, you need to come up with $100,000 down. If you only have $50,000 down, a strategy that we use at times, and in certain markets it works really well, in certain markets it doesn't work as well because the vendor does not want it, the seller does not want to give you a mortgage because they need all the money so they can go purchase something else or do what they need to do with that money. But if you only have $50,000 down, you're going to ask the vendor to give you a mortgage, the seller to give you a mortgage for that other $50,000 at a predetermined rate and term. The going rate right now, I don't know, Simos, maybe you can touch on that because you probably heard a couple more deals with our team, what the going rate would be on that, but that is the vendor take back. In Greater Toronto area, it is tougher, right? I can tell you in all the years that I've been doing this, very rare do we come up with a vendor take back mortgage in the Greater Toronto area because people who are selling their home, they're selling it for a purpose. Most people don't want to sell their home in Greater Toronto area. When they do, they need the funds. They need all the funds. They don't want to leave any money with you, even though that they'll get a residual income out of it and they'll be able to charge you interest, but they need the money to do something else with.
Yeah, so VTBs are common in a lot more common in commercial than in residential because typically in commercial, like they need the money to buy another home, etc. So the only time you see VTBs in homes and residential markets are in severe buyer markets, meaning that banks are not lending money. So the banks aren't liquid and the market is slow. And the seller will do what he has to do to get a deal to happen and provide the financing. Commercial, and I'm going to touch on the rates quickly. We just did a VTB on a residential property in Toronto this week. It's the exact same Willowdale deal because the seller in this case is very liquid. Benefit to the seller from giving a VTB is that they're not going to pay tax on the money today. So they sold the house. Even if they go for 3.7 million, they're taking back $1.2 million in a VTB. So they make it very easy for the buyer to get financing actually, and they're not going to pay capital gains or income tax on the money they didn't receive. So now they're going to be getting payments during the process, and then within 18 months they're going to exit and take that money and potentially reinvest it. So from a perspective, on the commercial side, there's huge benefits for VTB. If you're divesting and selling your properties, taking the mortgage back to the buyer is going to help you with your tax position.
Simos, what was the rate on that? What was that rate on that deal? So what was the rate that the seller got?
Okay, so the rate is typically, a VTB is typically second to the first mortgage. So you're always looking at introductory second mortgage rates. So a first right now is, let's call it 3%. A second is between 5 and 8. So typically a VTB would be between 5 and 8. It could be much higher if the property is it doesn't have a lot of equity, and it could be lower. So the one we just did was actually a 3, 4, 5. So very low interest rate for a VTB, because the guy bought the deal, he had to compete with residential bank rate, right? So it wasn't a high mortgage, a high interest rate. That was, again, that deal was a really big win for the buyer because we negotiated it really well, but that's not common. So going back to your question from the VTB rates, what are they commonly at? Between 5 and 8 is what I would say, because they're typically in second position.
And you do find them in the you will find them a little bit more in the outskirts, because outskirts in terms of location, because you have the fact that in those areas you are sometimes in buyers markets, and so sellers have tougher times. And somebody just asked for us to repeat that interest rate. Generally it's from 5 to 8%, so let's call it about 6.5% is where we generally see VTBs. Here on this deal it was a little bit less, it was about 3.5%.
Ty, hit us, buddy.
Awesome. Okay, so the reason why I asked that question is, in the Q&A portion, anonymous doesn't necessarily have the full amount that's needed for a down payment. What are some options that they could do?
Well, we can start with the joint venture. You should start with sending us an email at info@reccanada.com, so we can really hone in on your specific situation. But the one that I always like to start with is, when you say you don't have enough for a down payment, does that mean 0? Does that mean 10%? Because an option that I always like to entertain is, if you're renting specifically, maybe we purchase a home with 2 doors and you live in the basement and you rent up the upstairs, or even vice versa. I always like if you can live in the basement, because you'll get more rent from upstairs, because you can purchase that with as low as 10% down. You don't have to put down 20%. So that's an option, and you have a principal residence with an income property built in. Another option that we see a lot, we actually partner a lot of people up in that situation, is doing a joint venture. It's as simple as Simos having the ability to finance as well as the money, if he has the capital and I have the ability to finance, and I'm willing to do the work in terms of renovations or the maintenance or property management, and Simos and I putting a deal together, a joint venture agreement together, all done at the lawyer's office, is another way for you to get in the market. And then third is, you might not just be ready, anonymous, and that means that you just need to save some more money. Let's track your expenses and wait. The amount of people that we've spoken to 10 years ago that had this question, they saved money for a couple of years, and we were able to get them into a property, and that just comes down to timing.
That's a great response. That's everything right there. Good job, Jesse.
So next is a question from John. Hey, John, thanks for asking the question. He has a question regarding syndication.
I know which John it is. There's 1,000 million gazillion Johns in our nation. Do you know which John it is?
Hello to all the Johns. I'm gonna say this is a question. This is a question from every single John out there.
Yeah.
So they have a question regarding syndication and the roles of the participants in the syndication. What is the role of the sponsor, the person who's putting the deal together?
Okay. So syndication, are we referring to mortgage syndication, or are we referring to a JV?
I'm thinking based on the question JV.
Sure.
So go from that way.
Yeah, because we're using 2 terms. Syndication typically involves is a term used for mortgaging and really getting together, as far as using the word syndication in real estate. But when you say sponsor, now we're talking about a deal, not a mortgage provider. So regardless, the JV sponsor, which is a guy putting it together, typically is going to be either a small money partner and a big working partner, or in any capacity, it's the guy who's going to organize. Let's say we're picking up an assembly, or we're going to pick up a property, that's a 1960s bungalow, and change it into a beautiful new home or a legal triplex. And I'm looking for JV partners. So I'm the sponsor. So Simos is a sponsor. I have Tyler and I have Jas. As the sponsor, I'm bringing the deal to the table. As a sponsor, I'm bringing the deal to the table. And I'm asking my JV partners to participate in different capacities. So Tyler, you could be a working partner, meaning that you're a carpenter or you're a project manager and you're going to put together the plan for the property. And then Jas could be a money partner, where he's going to come in, put the financing in his name, put down the $500,000, and whatever the case may be. So every JV is 100% different than the other. Every JV has different goals, objectives, and plan. So as a sponsor, typically you're the guy leading the charge on putting the deal together and the idea together. The other partners, whether they're voting or non-voting partners, are going to have different roles. So if you have anything more specific, the person who's asking, if you have a specific type of deal and you want to understand what the roles would look like, I'd be happy to have a private call with you and guide you down the process.
I'm not sure if Jas was into our JV pitch right here. He left instantly, his video.
Are we doing a JV?
He heard
the JV.
Jas heard that Tyler was the handyman. He's like, no. I can find one for you though. I'll connect. Okay, so the next question is from Jovanka. Is there going to be any consequences in the GTA to having a non-legal duplex? So if you rent out the basement, will there be any consequences? You know, if the city knocks on your door saying, "Hey, you have a tenant in the basement and it's not a legal duplex."
Well, yes, I mean that definitely can come up, but depending on where exactly the property is, we can go through the process of legalizing it. And who are you renting it out to? So we need to know a little bit more, Jovanka. Shoot me an email or a text, and I'll get on a call with you. Tell me the situation specifically, and let's see how we can navigate around it.
Yeah, and there's also services that can actually, you can have someone that can go in and take a look at the basement to see what work needs to be done, if it's possible to even legalize it.
Yeah,
and
the city is definitely a lot more fair, and made it a lot easier. The reason being is because we need the housing. It's a supply and demand, right, issue, and it also helps with affordable housing.
Jas, why don't you touch a little bit, because you've opened this up? I would actually, you're going down a really good path. Talk about the misconception of what legal or not conforming means, because a basement not being legal doesn't mean that it's illegal. You're not breaking any laws. Why don't you touch a little bit on that?
Well, look, I mean, it all does depend specifically on the city that we're talking about. So, for example, Brampton is totally different than Toronto, and Toronto's totally different than Oshawa and Mississauga. Non-conforming would mean that it doesn't have two exits, the window sizes. Sorry, Mitch just kind of threw me off there. I love it, Mitch, I know. And so we need to make sure the ceiling heights, we need to definitely look at as well. There's a couple of issues, fire doors. So there's a lot of things that come into play. Those are kind of the main 4 or 5 issues, all stuff that can be taken care of and looked at. In Brampton, though, for example, there has to be a certain amount of space between the 2 properties.
Amazing.
Okay, so the next question is from Mitch, which had the great comment with the pencil sharpener there. Do you work with one broker, or can you establish a relationship with more than one broker? And I'm sure Mitch was probably talking about the mortgage broker when we were talking about financing, but let's talk about real estate too. So do you work with only one mortgage broker / real estate agent, or do you assemble a team?
Simos, you take the mortgage side, I'll take the real estate side.
Sure. They're going to be very common comments. We're going to have the same type, but you should have as many people as it takes to service your portfolio needs. If you're investing in a single market, you like, for example, Toronto, you want to work with a Toronto broker, mortgage broker, and otherwise somebody who knows the ins and outs of getting financing done in the market you're investing in. If you're investing everywhere, and I'm not talking about 200 kilometers outside the city, because the same mortgage broker would have the exact same kind of recipe as to what has to be done. I'll leave that for the real estate conversation because that's a big difference. But as far as your financing is concerned, one broker should be your broker. The broker you work with should be proficient, efficient, and very knowledgeable in the space you're investing. So if you cannot use a residential mortgage broker to do a 20-unit multifamily deal. They don't know how to underwrite it effectively. So we worked a lot with ProFunds on our commercial mortgaging needs, like a lot. And Kyle Baker, big shout out to you, Kyle. You're one of the best underwriters I've ever met. So he knows how to get the application to CMHC properly. He just knows everything about it. So going back to your question, if you need to have a commercial mortgage broker on your team, a residential mortgage broker on your team, and otherwise, you don't need one broker, you need enough brokers to service your needs. That's where I end the mortgage broker conversation.
And so on the real estate side of things, it's why we personally built our team, our outfit the way that we did. And so we have 33 realtors that cover the greater Toronto area. And even within our own firm, you might be dealing with Sumit in Brampton and might be dealing with Jennifer Popo in downtown Toronto. You'll also deal with Marlene in Durham, and we have other Durham agents as well, but I'm just kind of hot taking it. And then if we go into Oakville, you might be dealing with another realtor on our team. Why did we build it out like that? Because we truly believe that the one agent cannot know the intricacies of each marketplace. I live in Brampton now, but I spent all my time in down kind of like Etobicoke, Rexdale, downtown Toronto. But even now, I don't know both markets anymore. Right. And so what we like to do, is that when we have a new client that comes and sits down with us, you might be dealing with different people on our team. Again, why? Because each market is totally different. And so what I would say to your question, Mitch, is yes, build out the team as far as you possibly can. But on the flip side, I would give loyalty to the realtor that you're working with and the mortgage broker that you're working with for that specific area of the transaction. So if you're working with somebody in Mississauga from a real estate perspective anyways, then make sure that you guys have some type of agreement in place. But that agreement should only be for Mississauga, okay? And then if you're looking in Durham, let's have an agreement with a different realtor for just Durham. Because again, both markets are totally different. Days on market, all those market indicators we spoke about earlier, they're totally different from market to market to market. In the Greater Toronto Area, I think we have at least 1,000 micro markets. How is one person supposed to know all that?
For real, yeah.
Anyways, right? Ty.
Next question's from Candace. What's the difference from a tax perspective, like a high-level tax perspective, selling an investment property versus your personal residence?
Okay, so it's night and day. Your personal residence is not it does not get taxed. When you sell your home, there's a limit, of course, to it as far as what the capital gain would be. So if you bought it for 500,000 and you sold it for $1 million, that 500,000 is tax free. Period. Because there's a $500,000 per person coverage for capital gains tax on your property, on your home,
on your principal residence.
On your principal residence, yeah. And that is the question, right, Ty? Yeah. So on the investment property, it's going to depend on time that you own it. So if you buy a property today and you flip it within 6 months and not within a year, there is consequences depending if you were trying to make it a principal property or not. But an investment property, as it stands, you're going to have a capital gain or capital loss So if you sell it for more than you bought it for, you have a capital gain, which is taxable. And if you sell it for less, you have a capital loss that you can use to protect yourself against other gains. So one is 100% taxable, and the other is to a limit 100% non-taxable.
And that's why we stress the buy and hold, because when you hold onto your property, there's ways to take out equity via a refinance or a home equity line of credit. But the best thing through a refinance or home equity line of credit, it's tax free. Because you didn't sell anything, your income property, your investment property, Candace, then there is no tax on it. So you can take out. I know you're not going to get the full 100% profit. You get the 80% you can pull out, but it's how nice is it that you can pull out 80%, okay, tax-free, and still hold on to the asset. Do not cut off the golden goose's head. Let it continue to lay those golden eggs for you.
It's true. It's 11:30, Jazzy. Are we doing a hard stop today? What are we doing here?
Let's take a couple of more. I think people want us to let's take a couple of more questions, and then we'll have our hard stop, because I know how much you guys want to enjoy the weather, but I also know how much you guys enjoy us. And so let's go 2 more questions, Ty. You get to pick the 2 questions. For everyone else that did not get their question answered, we will on Monday afternoon, we will one by one get these answers to you via text, email, or phone call.
You know, it's not often that I'm on camera here, so that's I'm gonna enjoy this. And
that's
so
the only reason we're going 2 more questions, because I know how much you love being on camera, brother.
so there's only 2 more questions left from today's
perfect.
Q&A, so that's actually fantastic.
And I didn't know that. I promise you, I didn't even know that.
The first one's from Camille. Does down payments have to only be from your a person's savings account? And you kind of touched based on that the question before, but how else can you come up with a down payment?
Really quickly, you can use a home equity line of credit. It could be gifted to you. Some lenders, well, one right now in particular, Scotiabank, is not allowing you to use a home equity line of credit for an income property, but that's the only one right now. So you can use your source of down payment funds. Those are the terms you'll hear from mortgage brokers and real estate people. They'll ask you, what's the source of your down payment funds? It could come gifted from the bank of mom and dad, which is always a nice bank, because generally that's interest free. And then you could do joint ventures as well.
Great answer. That's exactly, I'm 100% on point.
All right, the next question from Cloud. On a pre-construction purchase, at what point is the rental amount decided? So maybe let's answer that.
You answer this one, because I took the last one. You take this one, brother.
So sure, let's kind of split that up though. Like how do you determine rental values from the pre-sales and pre-construction? And at what point do you take a look at current market stats when it's about to close?
Yeah. So the way you're structuring the question is actually the answer to the question. So let's say we're doing a project that is going to close 4 years out. Okay. When we're doing our due diligence today, when we sell our clients' properties, we don't sell based on smoke and mirrors. Like, we take real hard data from the street that's readily available through any of many of our public data sites, such as the MLS. But there's also, we have tremendous connection, and we pay a lot of money for the data that we have through Urban Nation, Altus, and RealNet, which are data aggregators on the marketplace that do specific real estate research. So this is what we do. Let me boil this complex due diligence process into very, very simple steps. We're going to take the Yonge and Bloor as an example. Downtown Toronto, Yonge and Bloor. Everybody knows where that is. If you go to the market right this second, a 1-bedroom is $2,500. A 2-bedroom is $3,000. A 3-bedroom is $5,000. It's making this. If I want to see if I'm going to tell a client to buy here because the rent is going to be an X amount of dollars in 40 years, the number that I'm going to use is going to be based on the appreciation, the average appreciation of rent in the city of Toronto the last decade. Not the last 2 years where the market was hot, because that's not a smart thing to do. You want data, so you want to take average of our 5 or 10 year period, whatever is actually the best number to use. If you're going back 10 years and the market was a different time, you're hurting yourself now for no reason. and you miss out on the opportunity. So you want to take a real good set of data that's relevant to the project or city that you're interested in investing and project out the average. Average in the city of Toronto, you're not going to use the minimum government allowed increase because now you're cheating yourself. Markets go up higher. So we want to use 4 to 5%. Right now in the Canadian market, other saving except a couple of the slow ones, Alberta, and the East Coast right now that are suffering because of the oil sector. Other than those slow markets, the country pretty much the tendencies are moving up 4 to 6% per annum. That's the average increase. Now, old tenants, it's going to be 2%. But if you were to put 21,000, so let's call it $2,000, a 5% increase is. Anybody have the answer? 2 times 5, it's $100. So next year will be 2,100. The year after 2,200. The year after you can start small, 2,250. I would kind of estimate 2,300. Shorter.
And one huge point, just to add to that, when you spoke about the rental guidelines, I mean, right now it's at 2.2% in Ontario, but for any building that was built after November 15th, 2018, those guidelines don't apply. And so you can increase it year over year when the building gets, like when you actually take occupancy of it, you can increase the rent to whatever you'd like. Now, at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you're advertising it at market rent, because tenants are not stupid. They're not going to just pay you whatever, but you can continuously increase it on that tenant, on that current tenant to whatever the market rent is. And so that's why we've always liked those type of investments, something that's been built after 2018, because it just protects us and we're able to increase the rents to market. In areas like the Greater Toronto area, areas like the Greater Vancouver area, you want to make sure that you can increase the rents on an ongoing basis, and you don't mind having a legacy tenant because you can keep on increasing it to what you'd like.
And I will mention, this is always a sensitive topic for me because our River City deal at River City 3 closed October 15th of 2018.
Yeah, I know.
And in less than 30 days, they opened up the market for rent control. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, is there anything we can do?
Let me close it off like this. We bought that for $340,000 and it's worth $700 now. So we're definitely blessed in that sense. Sometimes, look, even if you had to pay an extra $100 a month out of your pocket, and I'm all about having your rental income cover your expenses. I have not yet promoted or spoke about any type of investment property where the rental income doesn't cover your expenses. But personally, in our portfolio, we don't mind $100 loss because it also helps us, going back to Candace, from a tax perspective, because we get to write off that rent, and it's $100 from the left pocket going into the right pocket, right? But especially if you look at all the other ways that you went in investing in real estate, it's not always just from the rents. When you're talking about a $300,000 increase in 4.5 years from when we bought it to now, I think we're gonna be okay. Ty Simos, amazing Q&A session. I think everyone here that got their questions answered. If you did not get your questions answered, you shoot us an email at info@reccanada.com. Before we let everyone go, we would love if you could do us a huge favor. It's us asking you for a favor. I hope we've given you enough value right now, not only through our brunches, but all of our phone calls and investment opportunities. We have a goal. We have an objective. Our objective is to get to 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube page. We're at 3,000 right now, but we would like to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. I've always wanted to shoot for the moon, and if I land on the stars, that's okay. But everyone here can make it very easy for us. If you can go to and it takes less than 6 seconds, If you go to youtube.com/REC experience, that's youtube.com/REC experience. press that little red button, subscribe. There's a bell, and if you can drop that bell, that would be fantastic, because that will allow you to continuously get notifications on new content that we're producing. It's youtube.com/REC experience. It takes less than 6 seconds. And if you're in the mood, share it with your friends and family. It means the world to us. It's our way of giving more content. And you can also see all Brunch with RECs if you've missed them in the past. There's a beautiful playlist put in place for you already by the media squad. Shout out to the media squad. You can see all past brunches if you go to youtube.com/REC experience.
And what else do we have now that I'm very excited for?
Oh, yes, we have a live 24-hour music work. If you're working from home, take a look and listen to our lo-fi music while you work. It is really one of the soft type of music that you can listen to while you work. It's just something nice to have on in the background. We've animated it as we like to do.
And you're hanging with us all day long.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can be with us. Lo-fi link, please. Just go to our YouTube page, John. You'll see it in the live section. If it's not there, just shoot us a message. We'll let you know. Done 2 times. You are amazing. Much, much appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
I just want to thank everyone for coming on a day where it's 30-degree weather. You guys still came on to this webinar. Very much appreciated. I'll let yourselves, Tyler and Simos, say your goodbyes as well.
Tyler, go ahead, buddy.
It was a pleasure, being on screen today. I'm always in the background, just being the hype man in the comments. So it's nice to, take Bobby's place today. He's portaging. Thank you, everybody, for attending. It's great seeing you and talking to you. If you need any type of real estate assistance, not just buying, selling, investing, contractor, cleaner, mortgage broker, whatever it is you need in real estate, reach out to me, reach out to Simos, Jas, and we'll point in the right direction and connect you with the right people.
Simos, my man.
I would like to as always, thank absolutely everybody for choosing to be here with us on a Saturday. Sunshine, rain, snow. To every single person on this call, God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the amazing weather. It's the first day of summer, guys. So happy summer solstice. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.